And we are live, Federico.
That's fantastic.
Welcome everyone. As always, let's just give a couple of minutes for everybody to join, and then we can start off. Whilst we're waiting, so how's everybody doing?
I'm trying to find out where I can send a message. Yeah. Yeah, I got it.
Always the tricky part, right?
I'm terrible with technology. I'm only good with Power BI. Everything else is a nightmare for me.
If you can master Power BI, you can master anything. Yeah, for the quick question for the attendees, how's the sound? Is everything okay? Can you hear us clearly? Just as always, better safe than sorry. So let's just give like a minute or two, and then we can start off.
That give us an indication that you can hear me, Aivis, properly, like a sign up.
Yeah, we got a confirmation in the chat.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you, Rupali. Thank you, Nandi.
So who's excited to learn something new? Hopefully, otherwise if you don't, we're both, right? But I'm wondering about everybody else.
I am very excited. It's a new chart for me, a new custom visual for me too. So very excited to know all the capabilities and what you can do with them. And rather than what I try to do without knowing. So interesting.
For me, it's always about looking at the end result of what the containers actually showcase. Because the one thing that I love about challenges is everybody's starting off with the same data source, right? And the way that people visualize it, what visuals they use, how they actually tackle the cases is what really excites me to see. Because when I started off with Power BI, that was one of my source of inspiration. Because if you work with a similar data set every single time, right? For example, if you're working with financial data or something like that, you're very focused on one particular way of how you do things. So these challenges is what helped me as well to understand, okay, so actually you can use these sort of visuals also to tackle these cases. I can combine these two and get some sort of inspiration from that. So that was my main goal from all the challenges, the workshops and everything, to always learn something new.
Something that I discovered is looking at data set and see how can I make it better? How can I enhance the data set? How can I present the data? Instead using this dimension, taking out something from that dimension that make it clear for the end user. And that can to you with time, but when you are there, it just pop up on your eyes without actually have to think about much. And that I think is very important.
Yeah. I mean, it's always the debate, right? Which came first or which is more important? Is it the data part or is it the visual part? It's a combination of both of them. You can't really do the visuals without the data. Without properly understanding what you want to visualize, you can't really understand what you do from the data. So it's always a back and forth.
No, that is a very good advice, because I think a lot of people just load the data set and start working on it. And that is not the way. You have 30 days for you to prepare, plan.
Yeah.
And then put anything into action rather than just loading the data set and start putting charts in there. Okay, but at the same time is how I learn doing that. So I guess that everybody has to go through the same steps before they understand that, hey, there is 30 days, slow down, think about what you're going to do, plan it, write it down in a piece of paper, do a little mock-up, okay, and then take it from. I never really open up the data set in Power BI. I normally, if an Excel file or a CSV file, I will check it out on Excel, see what I can do about it, do perhaps some calculation to understand where I am, some check, change some column names, so you have the name that I want to, and then I load it. So all the steps you are doing behind, it's actually helping you when you load it to Power BI, and less work you have to do in Power Query.
Of
Yeah,
course.
you can change name, you can change value, you can do a lot of things in Power Query, but you can do a few of them in the Excel, in the source of the data, the better.
Of course. It's the same thing like you already mentioned, right? A lot of people are kind of getting worried about, okay, but how do I make designs or everything like that? It's quite simple. Take a piece of paper, take a pencil or a pen, and just draw it. It doesn't matter if you can't replicate it 100%. The reason why you're doing these kind of tasks is because you're trying to put your mind into the report user. You're just trying to understand, okay, so I'm going to have a page that's going to be horizontal. I'm going to have a title right here. These are going to be my main visuals. Then I'm going to have something on the side that's going to represent my slicers. So you just play around with the elements, and then you try to replicate that in Power BI. If you're not successful, well, adapt it. That's the main challenge that you're always going to have. You have to find a way to adapt to things.
I try to find a page. Yes, I got a notebook here by my side, and when I'm in a challenge, I enter in a lot of stuff. There are numbers or dimensions or whatever, but I got this as a helping assistant. When I go at it, I say, okay, that is the dimension I was looking for. And I'm talking about the dimension of the chart, the dimension of the card, the dimension of the donut pie chart, because if you move it, normally they lose shape. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
So I got quite a lot of notes actually on this notebook. And another thing that people think is that you go to Figma or Power BI, you prepare the layout and stay in stack. Now you might need to go 3 or 4 times to change the shape of the object. So if it's better, you report and then you bring it back again. It's not that simple. It works.
Yeah, I agree. It's the same thing as one report. If you make a report with a single attempt and the end user is going to love it, I envy every single one of you. Because that's usually not the case. There's always going to be some back and forth trying to understand, okay, what does the customer want? How do you create it? What is the end user looking for? Is the user tech savvy or less tech savvy? There's a bunch of different questions. Yeah, all right. Go ahead.
Let's go. No, as Ola was doing, sorry if I don't pronounce your name. Yes, using some tools in Excel to have a preview of your data set is a very good step.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's also a good way on how you can double check some certain numbers. For example, if you already have calculations done on Excel, just double check it against the Excel.
Yeah.
All right. Hello, everyone. So let's just get started and go through it. So today with me, I have Federico Pastor, and we're going to go through the challenge itself, talk about the data set, talk about the drill down visuals, how to achieve more with them, and a few other things. So the main points in the agenda today are going to be a quick introduction into ZoomCharts. So what are ZoomCharts? What are the drill down visuals and so forth? Not going to go into too much detail at first. And then we're going to switch up to the challenge. So we're going to talk about the data set. That's where Federico is going to come in. He's going to tell you about the challenges that he came across when looking at the data set example itself. And then I'm going to take over again to play around with some of the ZoomCharts visuals to showcase you what could be done with already the existing data. And then, of course, as any other workshop, we're always going to have a Q&A session at the very end. One of the ground rules that I want to put out there is if you have any questions, please make sure that you post them in the Q&A section of the chat. It's just going to help us to make it easier to find all the questions rather than going through, the whole chat and trying to find which comment was a comment, which one is a question. So just post it in the Q&A. That's going to help us find whatever is there. Few questions that I can answer straight away. Yes, the event itself is going to be recorded, so you're going to have an opportunity to watch it later. After tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, you're going to receive an email which is going to have the recording within it. The sample files that you're going to be seeing today are also going to be available to you. That's going to be attached to the email. What else? If you have any questions that do not get answered during the live chat, so for example, if we're running out of time, or if you come across something else whilst we're talking about different questions and you come across something you do not quite understand whilst making the report itself, here's an email. So webinars@zoomcharts.com. There you can send all your follow-up questions. And we're going to try to respond to every single one of them, but that's a great way on how you can go through this. Another thing that I'm going to ask one of my colleagues to post in the chat is there's also a possibility for you guys to sign up for individual sessions, consultation sessions. So if you have any questions regarding the visuals or anything like that, make sure you sign up for a session. We're going to have a one-on-one and talk about the visuals and how to achieve what you are looking for. All right. Anything to add, Federico?
No, I'm happy for us to go ahead.
All right. So without any further ado, let's just quickly open up the ZoomCharts website, and I'm going to stay right here. So what is ZoomCharts and what are drill down visuals? So ZoomCharts is a data visualization software company. And what we do is one of our business opportunities is we're creating custom visuals for Power BI. And we've been doing this almost since the very beginning of Power BI. So we started off with 3 visuals. Now we have 10 different visuals available in the app stores. And today we're actually going to be talking about 3 of them. And the main reason for that is because I don't want to provide too much information. So, you can actually go through all of it instead of thinking like, okay, I learned so much, but I understood like 10% of it. So we're going to go through the basics, through the most important visuals, I think, for this challenge. And don't forget, we also have a second session where we're going to talk about other visuals and other use cases. But the main idea about ZoomCharts and what we do with the custom visuals is we're trying to provide new custom visuals, which give you an opportunity to actually explore data through the chart. And what I mean by this is, for example, if you look at the sample report right here, one of the things that we're very putting emphasis on is the cross-chart interactions and the ability to just navigate the report. So for example, if I'm interested in one of the years, I click on 2016, for example, and you can see it drills down. I click on April to second quarter, I drill down into 3 months. I select 2 months itself. I click on those. That's going to pass out a selection. You click on one of the donor charts. Again, that does a drill down, filters out. So you can see where I'm kind of going with this, right? We're always trying to make the visuals communicate with each other in this most seamless way possible. And that allows you to have an opportunity to just ask questions whilst presenting. Because I think Federico is going to agree with me. So what we were used to a while back is we were used to static reports. Those were presentations, PDF reports, and these sort of things. What's happening nowadays is we're transitioning more into the era of interactive reports. We're just having a static image or a static visual isn't really enough anymore. So we're going into era where we actually ask questions during the meetings, and these interactive reports is what allows us to answer those questions. So a good approach for these reports is starting from an overview and then allowing the user to go down into the details. Yeah, so for ZoomCharts, like I said, we have 10 different custom visuals. You can check all of them out right here. I'm going to copy the link. There we go. You can also find all of them in the App Store. So as always, play around with them, see what you can do with them. And if you have any questions, reach out to me. That's going to be a quick intro into ZoomCharts. Don't want to take too much of your time. Yeah, Federico, go ahead.
Because you have the option to use 10 charts, that doesn't mean that you need to use 10 charts. You need to
yeah, of course.
No, I'm telling to my colleagues, they are in the watching us, is that, guys, you don't have to use all the charts. Just pick the 3 or the 4 that you think are best for the report and use those. Concentrate on those.
Of course. Because putting, even any best practice would be putting 10 visuals in a single page. That's a little bit of an overkill. Don't do that.
Yeah. No.
And also, don't try to just put visuals which don't make sense. Try to put visuals which actually are actionable. So look, for example, we could look into creating a network chart with all the locations and everything, but at the same time, I can put the information on the map visual and it makes a lot more sense. Nice. So always think about the use case of the chart and what are its strengths and what are its, cons, for example, just to work with the you have available and build on top of it. As far as the challenge itself goes, you still have 14 days, 10 hours, 14 minutes, and counting down seconds. So there's still a lot of time to create the reports and submit them. You go ahead, Federico.
Yes, in 10 days, I can do 5 reports. So there is no excuse, right, for you to get in. And I think with today's class, you will have a better understanding of the charts. Me telling you a couple of problems that I found studying the data set, you might have also a better idea.
Yeah, and I think it's actually a good time to actually go into the data set straight away, because the main thing I wanted to do is I wanted to quickly introduce what is ZoomCharts. We went to the challenge itself, so you have 14 days, and this link right here I'm going to paste it in. Don't forget to register for the event itself. And don't forget to go through the whole description. The main reason for that is never forget to read the briefs and technical requirements, just so you understand what is necessary.
Aivis,
yeah.
Do you remember that we test my Power BI file?
Yeah.
It's not showing anymore. Do you have the Excel sheet there with you?
I do, of course.
Okay, so I'm not gonna be able to. So you have to follow me. Okay, guys, this is the first place I came to check the data set. One thing that I did, and I do apologize because I can't show my Power BI, row ID and order ID, I left them as they are, as ID. But then we have product ID, we have a customer ID and another ID, and I prefer to call them keys because that's the keys I'm going to use to connect it to the dimension that I will create in the data set. But that's personal. I want you today to understand that this is the way I do things. That doesn't mean that is the best way. That is my way. And I want you to come up with your own ways. Okay? After making these changes, I know that I have the order date and the ship date. Okay? Order date and ship date. So what I did was subtract and take out how many days from order date to ship date. Okay? So I have another dimension. I am enhancing the data set. I don't have to tell people now to count the days. They have already a column there with the date, and you can go further and say, okay, if delivery was higher than 90 days, it's poor. If delivery was 30 days, it's good. If delivery was below 30 days, it's excellent. And create another dimension, and you have another way to present the data. You don't have to present the data just now with date. You have a category of excellent, good, and poor. Okay? Another thing that I did, I'm going to use all these columns. I'm going to use the postal code. No, I'm not going to do any analysis by postal code, so I deleted off. Then I went to country. I'm going to use only one country, the United States. The challenge is called North America, so it has to be the United States, so I deleted to it. No, I'm not going to use it. You're not coming with me. And if we can go now to the numerical data, to the sales and the profit. Okay, so we have, and that's very important, product name is there. I also deleted because you put that in any chart, it's going to mess up. If you put in a column chart, it's going to be inclined label, and that is a no-no. And if you put in a bar chart, the label is going to be too big. It's going to take a big chunk on your real estate in the canvas. So I'm not going to use it. I delete it. Simple like that. Then I went to sales, quantity, discount, and profit. One, I don't have any indication if the discount has been applied or not. Okay. Two, I see that there are negative numbers in the profit, but I don't have a cost table. So I don't know how to use the discount, and there is no way for me to know. I don't have any other data, guys. I know probably in a company you can find the data, but where we are now, we don't. That's the data we have to analyze. So for me at the moment, the discount is pretty useless, but I might find a relationship later on between high discount and negative profit numbers. Just to see, okay, just to see if there is any relationship. But if you don't see that relationship, if you don't see that relationship between the number, don't use it because we don't know. We don't know, we don't use it. Okay? We have sale and we have quantity. So we can get the unit price from sales and quantity. Okay, so yeah, we got another dimension that is unit price. Taking unit price, we can now do an average of sales and an average of unit price. Then we are looking for ways to enhance the analysis. Now, what do I do with profit and what this negative number means? Guys, there can be negative profit. If you have a product that is not selling at all, you want to make your losses smaller, you sell it cheaper than you pay for it. And therefore, the profit is going to be negative because you pay for it $20 and you are selling it at 10. But you are at the same time reducing, okay, the losses. Okay, so that is nothing weird. It can happen. It's no ideal, but it can happen. So now I got sales and I got profit. What I can do is subtract sales to profit, or the other way around, and get the cost. That is my cost. Okay, because profit is sales minus cost. I don't have cost, so it's product minus sales. It will give you the cost, and you have another dimension, okay, or numerical dimension. You have now cost, you got unit price, you got sales, and you got profit. Now you can do a better analysis, okay? Remember, look at the data. Make sure you apply what is known to you. If not known to you, 2 questions. You can come back to us or to Aivis, ZoomCharts, or the team in the challenges. Guys, what do I do that? Or how did you tackle this? Okay. Another thing important is that there is no right or wrong approach. We are playing with the data. The idea of a challenge is for you to open your mind to what can I do? Okay, with the data set. The data set is not perfect. There is no perfect data. A friend of mine called Lien told me a few minutes ago. So remember, that's what we have. How best to approach this data set and how much I can obtain from you is about you. There is no right or wrong, whatever approach you take. Okay, I'm not gonna look, oh, that is super wrong because you did it this way or you don't did it this way. I want you to open your mind to the possibility of what you can do with the data set. 2, don't load the data and work in the flat table. Please create a data set. So, a data model. Okay? And I wanted to show what I did, but I can't. No, I'm checking again, but no, I can actually. Sorry, guys. I don't know if I do this will work. Give me a second. I'm still trying to find ways to show you. Okay, 1 second. It's coming up. Why is not loading?
Issues of the 21st century, right?
It's only happening to me. The second time it happened to me. No, I cannot show it. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Gonna put back.
Okay, sorry, guys. Okay, so let's look. If you go to the left, to the beginning of the spreadsheet, Aivis, please.
Yep.
Okay, let's look at, we go already, and already we have 2 date tables. And we already provided you a calendar table, but if you don't have a calendar table, you can extract a dynamic calendar table for the 2 columns. Okay, oh, I don't have a calendar table. Remember, with these 2, you can get a dynamic calendar table. Okay, you only need to know the first day of the order starting and the last day of the shipping date, and you just in Excel drag it down to the last day of the shipping date, and there you have your date. And from there you can extract the year, the month, the quarter, the week, the days, etc. Then we have sheet mode. That is a dimension. Okay, so in Power Query, you delete everything around it, remove duplicate, okay, add an index column, okay, and then you have one dimension. And then we have customer ID, customer name, a segment. That is another dimension called customers. The same. Okay, you reference it in Power Query, you reference the fact table, the data set, reference it, remove other column, from the customer ID, remove duplicate, and add, and in the column if you want to, you can use the customer ID as a key anyway. Okay, and then you have your customer dimension. Then you have country, city, state. Well, country I deleted, city, state, and postal code. Fuera, you go all this, that is geography dimension or the location dimension. Okay, remember, a dimension thing on top of the fact table, and they are unique values. They are unique. So you have to remove duplicate. It will be a unique value at the top in the dimension and a lot of these values in the fact table. Okay, then we have salespeople, that is the sales team. That will be another dimension. And then we have product ID, category, subcategory. I deleted the product, the last one I deleted. So you have another dimension. Okay, so from the data set, you can create actually 4 or 5 dimensions, and create a dimension is not difficult. It's just a matter of, and a lot you I know you know, we no copy, we reference the big data set, remove all the columns that are not play that dimension, and remove duplicate. Okay, yeah, can you reference that one? Okay, call it sheet mode, please. So we know what we're doing. Sheet mode, yeah. And now remove all the columns. Remove duplicate. Is there? You there.
When you're trying to do things fast, right?
Now, guys, one question. We know we have same day, first class, standard class, second class. So the top one is same day delivery, yes? First class is second. So you can duplicate a column. Duplicate column. And now you are going to, what is the name? Replace values. Click on, you have to click in one of them. You need to click, well.
I mean, I can do this, yeah.
Second class is 3. Okay, standard class, first class will be second. Same day will be first, and so on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, basically, no problem. And that is going to be your, also your sheet mode ID of, okay? Because we have a hierarchy here, no? We say, okay, but the best one is the same day, the second one is first class, the second is a standard class, and the last one is second class. Now you just play ascending filter, order by ascending there. Yeah, ascending on the top. There you go. Okay, that, and you do the same, guys, with the other dimension I talked to you about. Okay, all this calculation that I told you, the cost and the unit price, and you can do all this in Power Query. You don't need to actually do it in that. You don't need to do it when you load the data. All can be done here. Okay, Aivis, can you quickly go to retail order full data set, the main?
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Now you select ship date, another day, no ship date,
yep.
and order date.
Yep.
You have to add columns. Add column. Now you can there extract the date. Okay, I don't know. Yes.
You can also get actually the differences here.
Yeah, exactly. Now you have the days, or there are different ways to do it. Now you have the day between the order day and the cheat day. Mm-hmm. Okay, guys, it's simple. You can do a lot of calculation within Power Query without the need to do everything by doing that, so calculated column. Okay, that's it. Then I load into Power BI. I did my relationship. I make sure my calendar table is marked as a calendar table. I went then to the table view. I make sure all my data IDs are the one or the corresponding one. Day is a date, country is a location one, and so on. And then I pass. When I have done all this, when I'm happy that everything is okay, guys, I go to the Canvas. Can you go to the chart, please? Yes? No, the Canvas.
The Canvas, yeah.
That one. Yeah, that is something for me. I do some preparation there, and I stop. Then I go to Figma to prepare my background. But like when I have everything more or less clear in my mind, I bring up the layout. And now, before that, it's not about throwing charts into the canvas. You need to know what chart is good for what you want to show. And I think Aivis is going to do a better job than me explaining that. There are charts that are good for something, the other charts are good for another thing. So it's not about throwing charts to the canvas because they look nice, okay? It's because they make sense to the presentation. Remember, any presentation or any report you're making is not for you, it's for the end user. So don't think that they understand what you mean, because they most probably don't. It's for you to make it clear to them what you mean by your data and your presentation. Aivis, I think that is for me.
All right, sounds good. So remember, guys, if you do have any questions, feel free to send them in the Q&A section. We're going to go through them at the very end. So just so we can kind of save a little bit of time and make sure we can cover what we wanted to cover. All right. So now that we talked about the data set itself, and like Federico already said, one of the most important things to remember is don't be afraid to interpret it in different ways. Because if you don't have a guideline that's coming with you and you don't have a way to verify it, unfortunately, it's the way it is. There's always going to be room for interpretation. Like, for example, if the sales showcases already the sales amount with the profit or without the profit, do I sum it up? Do I subtract it? Is the unit price based on this or that? There's a lot of room for interpretation. One of the things that I usually do when these sort of data sets come across is I typically create another page on the report itself where I define what I took as what. And the main reason for that is because if somebody else or the judge looks at the report itself, you can understand the logic a little bit better. So we can understand, okay, what you did there and why you did that. Because otherwise, you know, if you start mixing different numbers and you just randomly look at them, it's going to be like, does it really make sense or not? If you explain it, it's going to be like, oh, okay, now I get it. It's small little things, but trust me, when it comes to building reports, your main job, as much as you would like to think it's just creating a report, it's creating a report that's actually usable and insightful. You have to provide information if it's necessary. You have to instruct your users if it's necessary. There is going to be things which you think are just, you know, it's common sense. It's common sense for you because you built the report. It's not necessarily common sense and quickly understandable for the person who sees the thing for the first time. If he's used, for example, other Power BI reports, it's going to be a little bit more easier. But if it's even the first time he sees a Power BI report, trust me, there's a lot of things he still needs to learn. And that is the tricky part. You as a report developer have to take all of those things into consideration when building the report. You cannot create a super complex report as your first report and then give it to the users and think like, yeah, everybody's going to understand this. Trust me, it's not going to happen. And what's going to end up happening is it's going to be thrown back and you're going to have to rework on it. So that's why in the beginning I also said, just understand that building a report is a multiple iteration process. You create one version based on the initial comments of the customer or the end user. You give them the idea, you present the sort of like a structure of the report, not even the final result, but you give them a structure and say, hey, is this okay? Do these visuals make sense? Do these interactions make sense? Just so you don't have to waste your time trying to fine-tune everything for everything else to be ripped down afterwards. Just keep that in mind. And one thing that I can say from experience is don't get too attached to your reports. They're going to change. There's going to be always good comments and bad comments. You know, it's your work. Okay? Keep it professional. Sure, it's, you know, in a sense, it's your little baby, but don't get too attached to it. All right. When it comes to the visuals, and what I've done in this particular report is, like I said, I've used 3 visuals in this specific scenario. 3 drill down visuals, I mean. So I used the timeline visual, I used donut charts for different dimensions, and I used the map visual. Now, one of the things that I did on top of the original data set is I actually added another table which has all the information regarding the geo positioning of the states. So if you remember from the original data source, if we go back to the geographic section, you can see we have countries, which, like Federico already said, is kind of obsolete. There's just a single country. Then you have cities, states, postal codes, regions. So essentially you have these 4 properties that you can play around with. And each and every one of them is a little bit smaller in the granularity. What I did for this challenge and for this specific report is I stayed on the top level. So I went with the regions and with the state. And for the states, one of the easiest way on how you can actually find the locations itself is, trust me, one thing that I can definitely say, and I think Federico is going to agree with me, when using Power BI, a lot of the times Google is your friend. Trust me, you get stuck on different questions, you get stuck on different kind of queries or DAX formulas. Just try to look for the answer. And in this case, for example, I needed the longitude and latitude for USA states. So I type in US states, you can actually see it in the query search, long lat. I look at what's available. I already know from experience that Google for Developers has actually this table right here, which I can just copy and enter as a new data source in my original report. And then I just connect them based on the state name. Once I did that, I'm going to actually create the map visual from scratch. So I created a map visual, and for the map visual was positioned roughly around here. So now when I have the new table, I can actually use the latitude and longitude. There we go. And I can look at some of the other values that I have there. So one of the things that I want to put as a value on top of the nodes in this case is actually going to be the sales amount. All right. Looking and knowing the capabilities of the chart, there's actually one more thing that I want to do. So one of the things that we allow you to do is to put a donut chart on top of these nodes that you see here. And what that allows you to do is to categorize the underlying data set. When I do it at first, you can see nothing happens. So you might think, okay, it doesn't really do anything. That's not really the case. When you add it there, what happens is if you go under the formatting options and node settings, you can scroll down a bit and find right here pie charts and nodes. Once you enable it, you can see it creates these nodes. Now, of course, like any other chart, right, every single chart can also become a hot mess. And this is what happens in this case as well. Because I have such a kind of disparity between the values of the nodes, you can see some of them are starting to overlap. So what I can do here is just play around with the settings again. So one of the things I'm going to adjust is going to be the clustering distance. So I'm going to say, okay, actually play around with the clustering distance and say that this is going to be 80%, 8 pixels. And what else? I'm going to say that the max node radius is going to be a little bit smaller. Something like that. Now, when I zoom in, one of the great things about these clusters is they actually split the closer I get to the map itself. And that's how I get down to the state level. All right. Since we know that we're only going to be sitting in USA, and I'm not going to go into the cities since I don't have exact coordinates for them, what I'm also going to do is go ahead and disable the base layer of the map. Now, this is one of the things where a lot of people could go like, okay, now why did you do that, right? So now there's no map. Quite simple. One of the things that the visual allows you to do is separately play around with the base layer, and you can also add shape layers on top. There are a few shape layers already built into the visual, but you can also use your own custom KML or GeoJSON files. In this case, I'm just switching it to USA, which is going to be the US states. The main reason why I'm doing this is, remember, I'm only working with the state level information. So I don't really need more detailed display of the map. Since I'm not going into streets and I don't care about specific coordinates, there's no reason to keep the base layer. Because if I have the base layer, think about it like this, right? What is a base layer? The base layer is a compilation of thousands upon thousands of images. So the closer I get to the map, the more resources does the Power BI report need to consume to actually load it in and showcase it. If there's no added value to it, do not use it. It's as simple as that. So that's it for the map. We could, of course, also go here under node settings and say, okay, I actually want all of these sections to be based on one singular color. I can do that by choosing the base fill color and saying that, for example, okay, I actually want it to be on the dark blue scale. So something like that. So that goes for the map itself. Now, what else we had? We had a timeline at the very top. Now, the timeline visual is a little bit more different from the native visuals that you guys are probably used to, but it's not rocket science. So the main difference here is that the visual has two date fields, which is causing a little bit of confusion to the users. But the reason for that is quite simple. In one of them, you define the hierarchy itself, and on the second date value, you provide the actual date. And the reason why you do that is because that allows the visual to create a connection between the date and the hierarchy level. If all of that is confusing you, it's this simple to actually make one. You take the date, for example, which already has the built-in hierarchy. You can also add custom hierarchies, but in this case, I'm just using already the built-in hierarchy. Add it to the date hierarchy. Take the same date field, add it to the date value, and then we need some series. Series are numerical values. And in this case, I'm going to say I want to see sales and I want to see profit. There we go. So this is how the chart is going to look by default. It's creating essentially a cluster of series on the specific year that the information is available at. But what we can do here is we can look at the chart and say, but there's actually, it's taking a lot of space. I want to have it as compact as possible. And since these values can't really be stacked on top of each other, right? It doesn't make sense to combine sales plus profit because we don't really know if it's something that we can add or if we need to subtract it. I don't really know. So I'm going to consider that sales is a separate value and profit is a separate value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable series defaults and change the display mode from clustered to stacked. And now you're going to be like, but you just said you can't use the normal stack. That's right. Because first of all, I need to make sure they are stacked. Once they're stacked, I can change the stacking mode. And I can say that, okay, actually it's going to be zero based. So now both of these values are starting from the zero value. So I can see, for example, how much of a proportion of the sales does the profit take. And what I'm also going to do here is, if you look at the charts, one of the things that kind of comes into hand is, I want to increase it just to make it easier. You can see that both of these columns start at the same location. And like I mentioned before, you have to instruct your users on how to use it, right? So without me telling you that this is a zero-based stack, I think most of you would agree with me that it looks just like a normal stack. And the only reason why you could understand that this is a zero-based stack is if you look at the values. Right? So if you look at the values, you can see that 733,000, seems about right. So it actually means that this is 90,000. Was it easy to understand? Most definitely not. And this is the reason why we allow you to customize the series independently. So for example, I'm going to open up series 2 configuration, which is for the profit. I'm going to enable series customization and say that the width percent is something like 70%. Or 80%. Play around with it, see what fits your use case a little bit better. The main reason why I'm doing this is, I think you can agree with me, now I can definitely understand that both of them are starting from the same value. And it's not overlapping, so it's clear and understandable. And this is one of the main things you have to always play around with. You have to think about it as if you are the user from the side. You did not develop this report. If I see it for the first time, does it make sense what I'm seeing here? And this is one of the reasons why a lot of reports are actually failing in the long run. Developers understand them because they made them, but the end users, when they first see them, they just get confused. So eliminating that confusion is what keeps the report alive and gets you a lot of credibility as well. So we did that. What else we can do? We could, for example, switch the granularity to, let's say, looking at months. Okay, and now actually see something interesting. Like Federico already mentioned in the dataset itself, we do have cases where we actually didn't make profit. We actually got losses. So just by having it in a similar color, it's not necessarily visible from a get-go. So what I could do is I could go to series 2 and enable conditional formatting. You can see now it's kind of all over the place. That's because by default, conditional formatting takes the average of the series. But what you want to do is switch this one right here. So this series into a constant value and set it as 0. So now that columns which are in loss actually are in red. The ones that are making profit are in green. So small little changes is what helps you to have the report be as informative as possible. And it's one of those funny things that you might not think about it at first, but playing around with the visual, playing around with different filters that you have, and I think Federico can agree with me on this one as well. When you make the report, one of the most usable things that you can do is just play around with what you already have. Apply different filters, see how things are getting filtered, see if you don't come across situations where, for example, one filter becomes obsolete, and these sort of things. Because the worst thing that you could do is, for example, create a report where the same information gets filtered from different directions. So what happens is, with one single click, suddenly 3 charts are showing just, for example, one column. It seems weird.
Yeah, that is a very important point, Aivis. They need to know how to apply the filters.
Yeah. So for filters, use slicers, use the filter panel if you want to, or just use other visuals. It all depends on how you want your user to navigate through the report. So we made the timeline. We can, of course, adjust the colors. We can adjust the colors here. But what we also had there was a donut chart. And one of the briefings, actually, if we go right here, I'm going to go and focus on a specific one, right? Because it's convenient for me. Is, for example, where it was, which top 5 customers made the most profit? So this one. So I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, right, that's the donut chart. And the first thing that comes to mind, there were a lot of customers, right? Why would you use a donut chart? Donut chart is usually used for when you have 4 or 5 different categories, nothing else. There's a reason for that. So I'm going to go ahead and say that I want to add customer's name as my category. And I'm going to put in profit as the value that I have there. And now look at it, right? This is like a prime example. Why not to use donut chart when you have a lot of different values? But we actually have a trick up our sleeves. So if you go to the formatting options, and if you go under donut, you actually have this little thing right here, which by default is already enabled, but the threshold is set to 15. If I set this to 5, you can see that the chart becomes a lot more nicer. And what it allows me to do is actually to go into groups of 5. So for example, if I click on others now, it opens up me the next 5 contributors. So this is top 6 to top 10. This is top 11 to top 15. So you give the user the ability to actually look at the rest of the customers to understand where they're positioned, for example. And the main reason why we wanted to have this capability in the chart is because we all know how it's easy to get lost in data, right? It's quite simple. And having this ability to just move to the previous section, to the others section, and yeah, one more thing I forgot to mention, you can actually rename these. So they're hard-coded by default. It's going to say others, and if you open others, it's going to say previous. But these are free text fields right here, so you can literally type in whatever you want to. Now, it doesn't make sense, but hey, it's the principle. So you can play around with those. Now, one thing that also is very important when you're creating visuals is not running around with different colors. And this is something that you can play around with as well. So for example, if I decide that, okay, this is what I wanted to have here, but then I play around with the chart and say, actually, you know what? I want to go back to the original one without the conditional formatting. And there's a specific use case for that and a reason for that. So now I know that sales is in yellow and profit is in orange. If I look at the donut chart, I can see that, okay, actually Tamara is in yellow and Raymond is in orange, right? So my colors are all over the place. So what you try to do always in your reports is make sure that a single color represents the single value. So I can simply just apply a base color, and now it's a lot easier to understand, okay, so now we're talking about profit. If I go for another donut chart, then let's say, okay, actually going to have another dimension here. And in this one, I'm going to look at the information that's in the map. So I'm going to go for things like region first, then I'm going to go for state, and then for the city. And instead of profit, I'm going to go for sales. Again, you can see the colors are all over the place. But I know that my sales is in yellow. So I go down, fill color options, base fill color, and apply a yellow as the base color. And what's also good about this sort of approach, and this is something to always keep in mind, right, is you can always use other visuals to help you out, filter out the information in a deeper level. So what we do here is, like I said, I chose the region, state, and the city. But in the map, I only have a state coordinates. So what that allows me to kind of cross-filter is if I choose a particular region, you can see I focus deeper onto the west side of USA. I choose one particular, this is one awful section, right? So that's why you adjust it. That's the reason why you have it there. So you zoomed in on the West Coast. Now you choose California. So that's going to zoom into that state. And you have a lot of these cities. When choosing a city, it's not going to change the position. But as you just saw, it actually allows you to cross-filter all the other information that's on the page. So it still allows you to get to those fine-tuned results. If the end user says, hey, but I wanted to actually go to the city, that is doable. You just need more data. You need to find the longitude and latitude for the cities. So, and this is one of the things that I can guarantee to you as well, that it's not necessarily that you're going to get the cleanest data sets for your reports. There's always going to be some cleaning, transforming, additional data applications just to kind of enrich what you have there and provide the wanted result. It's always sort of a bit of a power struggle in a sense. But yeah, so for the donut chart, one other thing that I think you can appreciate is when you choose one of the slices and you drill down, you can actually see we're creating these inner donuts. So the main reason for them is to have them as a reference layer. I'm just going to adjust the size of it a little bit. So you can see these right here. And the main reason why those are in the chart is because, let's be honest, the attention span nowadays is getting smaller and smaller. It's kind of hard to keep attention sometimes. So what this allows you to do is, even if somebody didn't see how you got to the data, they have these inner reference layers that showcase him exactly what you have previously selected. So that helps you to tell the story. And it also helps them to understand which level of the drill down are you on. Those small little things make a major impact. Trust me. It's one of the reasons, right? I know that in data visualization communities, there's going to be a sort of divided attention when it comes to donut charts. I know it, right? It's more of a you love it or you hate it relationship. There's no in between. But the main thing that I usually say about visuals is there's no such thing as a bad visual. There's bad configuration. Every single visual was usually made with a purpose. Of course, except certain visuals like aquarium visuals and these sort of things, which are just for, fun. But every other constant chart that you have seen out there, columns, lines, areas, donuts, maps, scatters, they have a specific use case. And it's one of the things that I recommend you to do is just to learn about the visual chart types itself. It's going to help you tremendously to understand how to visualize things. But yeah, few donuts, and the end result kind of looks like this. So like I said, what I did here is there's a timeline. You can play around with the hierarchies. So I can easily say, okay, I'm actually interested in the West Coast. I see the total sales, profit, average delivery day. And the funny thing is that I know this from the data set, and this is a conclusion you can come up to as well. If you actually filter out the same day deliveries, the average delivery time is 31 days, right? But if you filter on top of it also the bottom, or let's say the longest deliveries for the same day delivery is 31 days. Now, I can guarantee you, if I would be one of those customers, I would not be happy with the delivery service. I paid for extra for the same day delivery, but got it a month later. But yeah, that's going to be from my side.
No, but that is something to also understand. There is no perfect data set.
Of course.
And you're going to find, guys, that even in Word, the data set coming back to you, they believe the business that they have fantastic data and they bring to you a mess, and that you are going to have to do a lot of exploration. Yeah. And before you can go back to them and say, listen, guys, something is wrong here. Can you please check it out and come back to me? So I think the point of the challenge is to find out all these inconsistencies, learn from them, from when you are at work. Yeah, you can, that happened in the challenge, that happened in the challenge. Sorry, sir, there is something wrong here. Can you ask the business to provide the right data? And I think that is...
It's one of the things that you kind of just have to understand, that challenges are meant for the community to challenge. It's kind of in the name, right? It's a challenge. So there's always going to be some room for how to improve the data set itself, how to convince things, how to calculate things. There's going to be some challenges. But the main reason why that is happening is that's what you come across also in everyday life. Not every data set you're going to get is going to be clean.
From my side, challenges, not challenges again, Ann Taylor, that I know she was here or she's here. It's not again the other participants, it's a challenge between myself. It's a challenge in myself to challenge that data set, to explore it, to work it out, to try what yesterday I learned about calculation group of field parameter. Mm-hmm. That's the challenge. Whether I win or not, that can later, and if can, excellent. By the way, if Ann Taylor is there, congratulations, you're on data winning. But that is what it is, a challenge. A challenge is actually within yourself to make the best you can, to put ideas in the challenge, in your presentation. And if you win, fantastic. If you don't, the next one. I have participated most than anyone in LinkedIn challenges. I can guarantee you that. I won just a few. So I don't expect to win every time.
No, I didn't win any of the ones that I participated in. My first reports were just god awful.
Yeah, but a lot of people take it that I need to win 200 challenges. I won about 5 or 6. They are all the important challenges, but that's it. The ratio is terrible.
Yeah.
But the more I practice, the better look in my report. When you get a good report online and people start clicking on it, and you get 100,000 views, then you say, I don't care if I win or not. My report has 100,000 views. And that made you happier than the $100 voucher from Amazon.
Yeah. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, think about it like this, right? Everything that you do at the very least is going to impact your life in one way or another. If some of you, for example, are just transitioning into data analysis and trying to look for a job, participating in the challenges and creating your portfolio is an excellent way of how you build on top of it.
Okay, there is how long do we have, Aivis? 1 minute?
I think, we have 1 or 2 minutes, but...
Okay, there is a couple of questions. How do you get the dynamic date? Okay, I think what I'm going to do, Awolola, is for the next seminar, I'm going to try to learn how the system works and make one in front of you, because there is a couple of steps that you have to do that I will not be able to explain verbally, so you need to do the step. It's very simple, and I would like to show to you because it's a good technique. Olutoyin, cool, unit price B sales, quantity. Okay, we have sale, we have quantity. If the sale is $20 and quantity 2, the unit quantity is 10. You divide quantity by sales. Okay? If I say something different in my introduction, remember I am speaking at 1,000 miles per hour, and they happen. Question and Taylor. So sales equal sales is unit price plus quantity. Time quantity, sorry. Unit price sale is quantity times unit price. I hope. Yes, I think I'm correct in that. Okay. All question answers. Guys, go and play. If you're not having fun, I'm not happy to have you in my group. Have fun. Enjoy. Learn. That is the point of what we try to do together with ZoomCharts in FP20 Analytics is for you to enjoy and try your best. And I hope to see you in the next webinar. And another thing I would like to tell you, for those that are starting, you are in the best position to ask as many questions as you want because you are the newbie in the room. I love to be the newbie in the room. Why? Because I can ask. I can ask, and nobody is going to tell me anything because I knew. So use that you are a newbie as much as possible because people will treat you better. They know you are advanced. Okay? So remember, asking, knowing, learning, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't be shy or afraid. Every time I go to any meeting, I probably the newbie, or I pretend to be the newbie so I can ask more questions. I can find more the information I want.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to fail. It's part of learning curve. You have to play around. You have to see what works, what doesn't, how to get things. There's going to be thousands of questions coming at you at a single time. It's how it goes. But the more you play around with things, the more you kind of get comfortable with it, right? You're not so afraid of new things, new challenges, new information coming in. Yeah. Whilst I still have you guys here, one thing I wanted to ask you is please do share your feedback on the session itself. You do have a link in the chat. The main reason why we want to have it, the feedback, is to understand what else are you looking for? How can we improve upon these sessions? What me and Federico can do the next time that you are all, keen on learning, but we didn't cover in this session.
And remember what we try to do, and again, I think ZoomCharts has been quite generous to be out there helping us with the challenges and participating in the challenges is love for the community. And I want you to reciprocate this love for the community with your entry, with your work, with your question, with your feedback. Be on it. I was talking to Aivis, said, Aivis, that is a problem in my view. And she said, yes, we are trying to fix this. So they know, and there is nothing wrong for me to tell that can be better.
Of course.
Okay, so we need that from you guys so we can do the challenge better and we can do ZoomCharts better.
Exactly. The better the challenge is, the more you get from it, right? So think about it like this. The more information you provide, the more interesting it's going to be the next time you join. Quite simple. All right.
Well,
so yeah, we do have a couple of questions that we haven't answered. So what we're going to do is we're going to send out an email to those participants in the follow-up emails. One of the things that was asked about was actually covered in the live session. So what is the date hierarchy and how it's used in the timeline? Quite simple. You can use, yes, the built-in date hierarchy. You don't have to worry about it. Just add it to the date hierarchy and then add, again, the date field. Another thing was, can I remove the gradient? I'm guessing, for example, for the donut chart, let's say, if it's something like this. Of course, you can do it. Fill colors. Just switch it to solid. That's it. The main thing you have to remember is, right, visuals are there for not only data representation, but also for visual enjoyment. So there are customers who want to have more fancy things. Others like to keep it strictly simple. So you kind of have to tailor to everybody.
And if you play with them, I presented in a challenge, it was Harry Potter's, and I do a 3D of the donut chart, and I put a background behind it, and it looks just crazy. It looks fantastic. That's the time for the fancy chart, for this.
Yeah. So you actually create sort of like a tunnel vision.
Yeah, exactly. Look at that. They are the right time for that. Okay,
of course.
So you find that challenge with that approach, use it. People is going to be, I tell you, people is going to be mesmerized. But look at this.
I mean, one thing that I think every single report should have, regardless of what the report is this little button right here. There needs to be a button that clears all the filters. It's a must-have. Because otherwise, like I said, it's easy to get lost. For example, somebody filters out something here, then it selects a timeline, then he chooses one other slice here, then somebody selects one particular line here, and then you're like, what did I just do?
Look how simple it is.
Yeah, it's quite simple. All I did was just use the mouse, not a single control.
Done.
And now I just go back, and that's it. So yeah, it's one of the things that I encourage you to just play around with, see what you can come up with, and if you do have any questions, just reach out to us. We're here to help. We're here to make sure that you can make the best report possible.
Please, for the how do I get the ZoomChart drill down visual, go to ZoomChart website page, look for the challenges, and you have to actually sign in. Okay, they will send you, go there, fill up, and go for it.
I'm going to actually just sign in with my account. But essentially, once you create an account and sign in, you're going to have an option to sign up for a developer's license. So developer's license is completely free of charge. You don't have any cost associated with it. And what you get is a specific username and password that has all the ZoomCharts visuals already available, and you have the full versions available to you.
Remember to say the password. And one important thing that doesn't happen with another custom visual that I did is that because you have this access, you can put in NoviPro in your portfolio, and their chart will never expire. So they will stay live forever.
So make sure that, you use them. You use them for training purposes, for creating POCs, for convincing, for example, other team members that, hey, this could actually solve a problem that we had. And that's what the challenge is, and exploring different custom visuals is kind of all about. That's the reason why custom visuals exist, right? Because we're filling the need that nothing else kind of covers right now. All right. Other than that, I think we did good. What do you think, Federico?
You did fantastic. I'm just 57, old and fragile, and don't understand much about that. I enjoy talking to our young people, our community. I love talking to them. I would like them to know that we are just another human being like them. That the only thing we have different from you is that I started 3.5 years ago, and I got that road run, and you had to run it. By the time you catch up with me, you will be in the same position that I am now. So that's the only difference. It's not how clever you are or how clever is the other one. I don't consider myself to be clever. To the contrary, what I am is persistent. I like to learn, and I try until I get it. When I get it, it's in my head.
Of course. I mean, it's the same thing. It's not like we see, for example, a visual or a formula, DAX formula for the first time, and they're like, I fully understand it. Trust me, the amount of times we try to do the same formula sometimes and we still fail is ridiculous.
Insa, the license can when you download it from ZoomCharts.
Yeah, the licenses can be downloaded from our website.
And what happens is that you are in the tenant, in the Power BI server tenant. So every time you want to use that Power BI file, you need to log into the tenancy. That you have this password, login, whatever, username, and that will allow you to use the chart all the time. You can then get out and log into your tenancy to carry on work, but you want to use it again, you log in into the tenancy, and you will have access, basically, for life, to that chat.
Yeah. You can use it however long you want to. The only limitation is, there's a reason why there's this exclamation mark here. So it's not for commercial use. It's for personal uses and challenges. Yeah. But you can easily use it.
Oh, I was thinking in cloning it and selling it in eBay or something like that.
Come on, man.
Now that you tell me
about it.
now that you tell me, I won't do that.
But yeah, don't be afraid to kind of go also through different cycles when you're learning Power BI. There's something that's called a Dunning-Kruger effect. You can guys look it up. It's basically a line that's showcasing the learning curve. And there's different points in it that represent different stages. The most common ones where people kind of get false expectations is, let's say, the first point that you can reach, it's called the peak of Mount Stupid. And the reason why it's called like that is because it's the timeline where you learn a lot about, for example, Power BI, and you start to feel that you know a lot about it. But then you start to understand incompletely how much you actually still need to learn. And that's when you start to fall kind of down in the confidence level. And the next stage, which is the most crucial part about development, is called the Valley of Despair. And that's where a lot of people lose their motivation. And, they just, so one of the things that I recommend you to do is try to find your focus. What do you want to learn about Power BI? Because there are so many dimensions you can go into. There's data parts, there's visualization parts, there's the administration part of it. There's different ways on how you can handle Power BI. Try to see what brings you the most joy, what actually you want to do. Don't try to master everything. There's not a single expert in Power BI community that knows how to do everything.
There is no point to the Aivis. I know that my strong field is data visualization, and that's what I stick to it. Okay?
Yeah.
I have a good DAX, I have a good data modeling, but I excel in my data visualization. That is my field. Okay?
Exactly.
Anyone here, have you seen any report from Marco Russo or Alberto Ferrari? Never.
Yeah.
You know why? Because they are terrible creating report. But they are fantastic in DAX. They are DAX people.
Exactly.
Okay, so pick your niche because it's crazy big. Data engineering, data modeling, and DAX, Power BI service, more and more the ecosystem is growing. Make sure you get your niche and make yourself really, really good at it. Not everything at your niche. What are you good at, and that will you focus.
Because you know what they usually say about those, who say they mastered everything. It kind of means that you didn't master anything.
Anything. Yeah.
Exactly. Because your focus is so deviated from everything, because you essentially know a little bit about everything, but you don't fully understand anything.
Anything. Now you're better to focus, and I say that to many people that if you want to reach the level of Marco Russo and Alberto Ferrari in DAX, this guy has been 15 years in the business doing DAX all the time. That's what they do, DAX. So you need to be 15 years in the business to have the same knowledge. So it's not that you are bad, that they have 15 years in front of you of practice.
So this is the line I was talking about. It's actually a line that I used when I started to learn Power BI, because I found myself here for a long while. It took me about, I'd say, 3 to 6 months to get out of here. Because getting here is quite simple. You get that false expectation that I actually know a lot of stuff. And then when you start creating reports, you're like, okay, maybe I don't know that much. Oh, there's actually a lot more that I need to learn. And then you find yourself like, how the hell am I supposed to learn all of this?
That my pick, Mr. Stupid, or pick of NT Stupid, was doing some time intelligence and working out. So yes, it's working.
Yeah.
I am an expert, and then that came back the day after and kicked me so hard in my backside that I said, no, I'm in the valley of despair. And everybody had to go through it anyway. So don't worry, you are in that place. In the valley of despair is just by continue the road that you will see improvement. And you might not be able still to do that massive, but you understand how Power BI works, what is behind, how calculated works, so you have a better idea that you can explain. You know why this done this way, why we have to use tabular models. You start learning about the engine and why the ecosystem is this way. Yeah, still you will be mediocre at that like me, but you know a lot of Power BI.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we did great. I think we talked about not just Power BI, but started to talk about life kind of important as well.
Yeah.
But
we carry on. We talk about football and singing.
yeah. That's how we end up the session at 9 a.m.
Okay. Yeah, I got more thing to do. So, guys, thank you for coming today. I would like to thank ZoomCharts, Avi, and Lien for inviting me to the session today. I will be in the next session too. Guys, go for it. Don't be shy. Get the data set. Even if you, at the end of the day, don't present, you can always send the data set or your report to ZoomCharts. Have a go. Because if you don't try, you don't never know what's going to happen.
All right, guys. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll catch you in the next workshop.
See you later.
Bye, everyone.